I just want to pick up on where Rachel left off, because I think there is a disconnect. And, elections are very much class issues, right? People who are very affluent, who are privileged, who have good resources around them, to them, an election is just like, yeah, okay, I got to vote, I do my thing, I'm registered, no big deal. I know what I'm going to do. I know what my class interest is, etc. But for a lot of people, there's a huge disconnect between the survival of their daily life and the reality of the political arena. And I think that makes it really hard. And so it really brings into very sharp question, particularly today, given where we are historically, culturally, environmentally, about why the heck we're in this election. And the fact is, yeah, the election's happening. Some people might say, well, what's the point of saying this? Well, the point of saying it is that we have to understand the political arena. If we're going to engage, we've got to understand what these powerful elites are doing and why they're doing it. And there's no question to me that, first of all, the parliament was working. I was in 3 minority parliaments, some of them quite tenuous. This one was actually working quite well. And in fact, Carl Nirenberg, who usually would be on this panel and is just full of wisdom about what happens on Parliament Hill, he just wrote a column where he pointed out very well that the last parliament was actually working pretty good. The Liberals were able to get through all of the legislation. In fact, it was improved vastly in terms of the pandemic response because of the push from the NDP and making things better, whether it was income support around COVID, whether it was support for small business or students. These are all big issues in the parliament. So let's be clear. Justin Trudeau pulled the plug because he believes very opportunistically that now is the time for him to gain a majority. And this becomes a very interesting question too, because then it makes us begin to think, well, if he thinks he can get a majority because of just the convergence of these different forces, is that a good thing for the public interest? And again, to come back to Carl, he wrote a very good article saying that, a Liberal majority is not necessarily a good thing. It actually takes us way more back to the center. A good parliament is where there's a pressure cooker. A good parliament is where there's pressure coming from the left to do things better. I mean, it's not radical. It's not like earth-shattering, but it's better than what it would have been when they have these huge majorities. And we only have to go back to the 10 years when he did have majority to see how far the Liberals at that time in their austerity programs moved to the center right, because they could do whatever the heck they wanted, right? So I do think it's incumbent upon us, Robin, to reflect on these things, even though, yeah, they did it. He called an election. We have no control over it, unfortunately, but it should be part of the discourse. It should be part of how can we then do voter engagement? How can we break through the legitimate cynicism and disconnect that people feel and say, you know what, we gotta take this thing that's happening and make it work as best as we can.